first game of the week. We're going to start Miami at Florida State. And let's go Florida State's offense. They're a run-first team. They use RPOs and options a lot. And they don't usually run up the middle. They kind of go to the outside a lot, which is definitely a strategy, you could say. And the QB design runs happen a lot with Tommy Castellanos. And they have a bunch of different running backs that play, but Gavin Sawchuk is the lead back. He already has 240 yards and 6 touchdowns. It's a very tricky, very trickster-like offense. Little Philly special type stuff. Trick plays, jet sweeps. It does kind of remind me of the Lions because Dan Campbell is a crazy man and he likes throwing the ball to their lineman named Penei Sewell. And their offensive line is not the greatest, but maybe that's why they run it outside a lot. Who knows? This offense is very tricky though, and it's going to be tough for Miami because this Florida State offense can be very good. And we saw that against Alabama. They were still mildly good against Virginia. They still scored 40 points or whatever they had. And then Miami defense, one of the worst in the country last year in all sorts of statistics. Now they're one of the best this year, 9th best according to Pro Football Focus, and one of the best defensive lines in the country. They absolutely crapped on Florida, USF, and LSU in the trenches. And Ruben Bain Jr. is one of the best defensive linemen in the country. It's a long shot, but he has a chance at Heisman, and he's a projected top 5 pick. And this Miami defense has looked a lot better than it did last year, especially the secondary. And they only returned one starter in that secondary, and Miami went and did what a lot of the teams are starting to do, and they went and used the transfer portal, and they did a great job. I think Miami has a great shot to make it to the CFP and go far in the CFP. And it is only week 6, so let's not get ahead of ourselves because last year they did end up choking against Syracuse, I think, and did not make the CFP. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but this week and right now Miami is looking like one of the best, if not the best team in the country, and their defense is elite. So much better than last year. But Florida State offense, you still got that very trickster-like offense who likes to run a lot of crazy plays and run outside because they don't have a good O-line. Tommy Castellanos is not great at throwing the football recently. I heard a stat somewhere. Heard something about somewhere. Whenever he throws the ball more, obviously he gets more yards, but he tends to throw a lot more interceptions. So Florida State is going to have to rely on the run game, and it's going to be hard against this Miami team, but you got to stick to the run game if they want to have a shot. And Tommy Castellanos is just going to have to shrug off those haters and do good because he can't play like he played against Virginia if they want to beat Miami and if they want to stay in the top 25. Quinn, what do you got?
Yeah. So I think for Miami, this is probably the best offense you'll have to play for the remainder of the season. And for Florida State, this is probably the best defense you'll play for the rest of the season. This is just one of those electric offense versus shutdown defense. And this is the matchup that I'm really looking forward to see. JT mentioned this. Florida State, they're a run-first team. They don't run up the middle, and I'm just going to say they're not going to run up the middle against this front seven of Miami's, but they can run outside. They do this a lot with their running back, Gavin Sawchuk. They have some jet sweeps to Jalen Lucas, and of course, Tommy Castellanos on the QB option, QB design runs. They're going to try and pull to the sideline, and that's what they did all game against Alabama, and that's what they want to do against Miami. If you look at their defense is outstanding. This, in my opinion, they're a top 5 defense in college football. They were one of the worst last year. So this might be the story of all of college football, just how big of a turnaround, because they went from bottom to top, literally. Their defense is really good. It's their pass rush to me. Ruben Bain Jr., he's going to be a top 5 pick. He's a stud. So I'm just going to say Florida State, they're not going to be able to run up the middle. And their offensive line needs to protect Tommy Castellanos at all costs. They're going to get a few sacks, but as long as you don't let Miami's defense dominate you in the trenches, just contain them a little bit. Don't let them dominate you like they did against Florida, USF, and LSU. The one thing, though, for this defensive line, they haven't really played an electric run game. I guess Byron Brown can run a little bit, but they haven't played the combination of quarterback and running back that Florida State does, so they have to contain, make tackles in open space, one-on-one tackles. Just don't let anything go for explosive yards, and that's what Florida State wants to do. On offense, I think your X factor is going to be wide receiver Deuce Robinson. He's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the ACC. 7 receptions, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns. He averages 20.4 yards per catch. He's your deep threat. He had an amazing game against Virginia last week. I think that this offense, they're electric. Miami's defense, they're shut down. This is going to be a very interesting matchup.
And let's go with our picks. Personally, this Miami team seems unstoppable, but it's at Florida State. And that is the big factor because Florida State, their crowd is crazy, and we saw that against Alabama. I'm going to be picking Miami 31-24 against Florida State. I think Florida State will make it interesting, but I don't think that they're going to be able to keep it up against this great Miami defense, and I'm going to be picking Florida State.
I am going to be picking Miami. I'm going to go with the favorites.
Whoa, hold up. Did I just say I'm picking Florida State?
I think
Sorry.
You
did. Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you.
You're fine.
I'm going to be picking Miami.
Okay. So I think I'm also picking Miami. I think it's going to be, if Miami wins, it's going to be a low-scoring game just because of their defense. I think their offense, they're underrated. They're not horrible. They're not elite, but they're going to do good enough to win. Carson Beck, I'm not worried about him at all. Going into a hostile Florida State environment, he's done this all of his career in the SEC. He will stay composure. He has Malachi Toney and CJ Daniels to throw the ball to. They're outstanding players. I'm going to pick Miami. I think it's going to be kind of like that Penn State-Oregon game last week where the defenses are dominating, but I feel like Miami's going to control this one most of the way through. I have them winning this 28-17.
Yeah, that's a big pick. Winning by 11. So, yeah, you have Miami pretty much dominating. I mean, it's close, but it's not. It's a 2-score game.
Yeah.
And I like that pick.
I think that they just match up well. I think that their defense is going to be able to contain Florida State's offense, even though Florida State's still a good team, but I just think that Miami matches up well. I think the offense should have a good time against not the greatest defense for Florida State, and ultimately that's why I think Miami will win this one kind of dominantly.
Yeah.